Friday night, time for Refugee. Let's run down the checklist. Deep Space Nebula background is installed. Studio is up. Monitors 1 and 2 standing by. Ready, cameras aimed and in focus. We're ready to switch to the studio in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are watching PJNet Live Friday night with our host, Hazards 4. We call him Steve because that's his name. And I want to do a little shout out before we get started. Steve made an introductory, kind of a bumper video. I'm really proud of him. And we will have some more tunes from Steve after we get done here with Refugee. He is standing by in the green room. But so let's take ourselves to the Bayou country of Louisiana. And when we do that, we will make a little place here, roll out the red carpet for Roger, refugee all the way from Louisiana. And there he is. He's not there yet. We have a hot topic tonight you are going to find very interesting. And I only found out about this topic a few moments ago. But in any event, let's bring Refugee has kind of some new digs himself in his bunker somewhere in Bayou country. You're looking good, Refugee, and I hear you've had a little surgery, but you look like a brand new guy.
Yeah. I had a couple of things cut off. You get these old man bumps as you start getting older, Mark.
Okay.
And you need to get them cut off and sent off and analyzed and everything like that. So I got a couple old man bumps cut off. So I'm doing good. But hey, Mark, have you heard the news?
Well, I've heard a lot of news, but the news on your mind tonight is.
Well, it's Gay Pride Month, Mark.
Oh, I forgot.
It's Gay Pride Month, and we're going to talk about that from a few different angles tonight, because there's a few things going on with this, and there's a few things that I have to say about it. One aspect that I'm going to talk about it from is spiritually. We're going to talk about it a little bit legally. We're going to talk about what's going on with governments and politicians and things like that. But, Mark, just like the government will name different things this month or that month or the other month, that's also something that the Catholic Church does.
Oh, okay.
And the Catholic Church dedicates different months to different causes. And June has always been dedicated to the Sacred Heart of Jesus Christ. Okay. And so in the Catholic Church, June has always been Sacred Heart of Jesus Christ month. And
now, once they make that declaration, is it persistent into perpetuity, or is it just that? Because there's only 12 months, so you've got to be very lean.
It's into perpetuity unless they change it.
Until they change it, okay.
And the church actually has a liturgical calendar that it puts out, and so on and so forth, and different things that are celebrated each day of the year. There are different things that are celebrated each week of the year. There are different things that are celebrated each month of the year.
So your inventory of celebratory spans of time is much deeper than 12. You can go 365 plus 12 at least. So you're in good shape. Okay, you're not going to run out of.
Yep. So we're in good shape on it. So it's particularly offensive to me when anybody who calls themselves a devout Catholic, or certainly anybody that calls themselves a priest, in any way puts out anything celebrating Gay Pride Month. Mm-hmm. And I had an exchange with, I'll call him a homosexualist priest on Twitter, and I used the word homosexualist to mean, I have no idea if the man's homosexual or not. I know that he has promoted this pro-homosexual agenda.
Right, he's sympathetic. You could actually.
Sympathetic. And he stops just short in what he says publicly. He stops just short of things that would actually get him in trouble with the hierarchy of the church. But he walks right up to that line
Yep.
publicly. I've heard that he goes further privately.
Mm-hmm.
And he certainly put out this big tweet about, a big happy Gay Pride Month to all our LGBTQ friends. And his name's Father James Martin. And remember that Christ always stood with the oppressed, this and that and the other. And I just answered him and I said, actually, Father, this is June, and that's Sacred Heart of Jesus month, and there really was no pride in the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And I would suggest that you concern yourself with the souls of people who suffer from the disorder of same-sex attraction, and encourage them to have some humility and some chastity.
Well,
And,
let me. I'm kind of thinking about this, and what if I do not have an objection to any group of people organically declaring amongst themselves, their month. If the bird watchers want to have a month for bird watching, that's fine with me, but I don't have to join in, right? I mean, I don't
right.
care about watching birds. If it's National Beethoven Month, that's fine with me. I don't have to participate, but so at that level, I don't care. Any group can declare anything to be a time that they celebrate their thing, whatever their thing is, and they
Correct.
have not transgressed or infringed on my rights or freedoms in any way, right? So I'm okay with that.
Right.
But when you start saying that, well, we'll get into the legal and political implications of the,
So when you start wanting to hang flags on everything from city monuments to courthouses, to state government buildings, to U.S. government buildings, to embassies, to
well, how about
military bases.
How about Christianity Month? Can we do that and put crosses all over public buildings?
Right. Exactly. And they would howl and they would howl and scream if we did that. Now, I want to take just a minute to make something very clear about the way I view this issue, because I don't believe in hate, and I certainly don't believe in going out and hurting anyone. Mark, I don't hate people who suffer from the disorder of same-sex attraction, and that is a psychosexual disorder, and until the politically correct and liberal movements, hit the American Psychological Association, they recognized it as such. They took it out of the books, when they became more of a political organization,
right?
Than anything else.
Yeah, when the biology changed,
right?
When they became enlightened.
And Mark, I have known Christians who suffer from same-sex attraction, who live celibate lifestyles, and who pray for healing, and who don't hate themselves, and all kinds of things like that. And I don't categorize gay sin as being any worse than straight sin.
Well, how about alcoholism? That's a sin. How about adultery? That's a sin. How about stealing? That's a sin.
That's a sin, and certainly, people are being a little hypocritical, in my opinion, when they get married and divorced 8 times, and when they have many affairs in between their marriages, and then they go out and they rail against, gay marriage or gay lifestyle or this or that or the other. Well, you're not living a moral lifestyle yourself. And
well, wait a minute. That's just how they manage conflict, is with divorce.
Yeah. So again, my problem is not with the disorder, and again, Mark, disorder is not a dirty word. Cancer is a disorder. Bipolar is a disorder.
You're taking a model here. I want to take a little bit of an exception to that, because by classifying it as a disorder, you're diminishing, at the very least, and discounting the notion of choice.
Oh, no, I'm not. Choice is in the behavior, including even what you choose to fantasize about or anything like that. Well, to me, where Christ said, lusting after a woman in your heart, for example. If a woman walks into a room, in my opinion, this is me. This is Theology 101 from Roger. If a woman walks into a room and I am immediately attracted to her, and there's a physiological reaction, that's not a sin. That's natural. If I
Right.
choose to start undressing her with my eyes and enter into a fantasy about her,
Hmm.
that is a sin.
Well,
Okay.
I'd need to
So
see the woman, because if she was ugly, I would say you're mistaken. If she was a babe and you didn't have that reaction, I would say go see a doctor. So, but I'm just kidding, Roger. I get your
no, no,
point.
no, no, no. So to me, when I say same-sex attraction, I'm not talking about choosing to have that fantasy. I'm not choosing. It's one of the reasons I say same-sex attraction instead of gay, because gay has taken on such a political and behavioral thing. So when I'm saying same-sex attraction, I'm talking about someone who has the disorder of they're not sexually attracted to people of the opposite sex, and they are sexually attracted to people of the same sex. They don't have to make a choice to give into that. They don't have to make a choice to enter into fantasy. They don't have to make a choice to enter into behavior. They can choose to live a perfectly chaste lifestyle, and they can even ask God to heal them, and in some cases, God will. In my opinion, Christ doesn't heal every disorder we have. Sometimes they're to teach us a lesson. Sometimes it's a cross we have to carry, and we never know. St. Paul talked about asking God, 3 times to
Hmm.
remove the thorn from his side, from his side, but Christ wouldn't do it and responded, "My
My
grace is
grace is
sufficient."
sufficient.
Okay, Mark,
Well, let me ask you this: on a
there's
scale of 1 to 10, I take some exception to the use of the word gay, because to me,
Mhm.
you're trying to, I mean, God calls it, homosexuality. In other words, they're trying to
Right.
soften it up. In other words,
They're trying to
they're not
soften it
committing
up.
adultery. They're having an affair.
They're trying to
That.
soften it up, but
Mhm.
I'm not trying to take the choice or the sin out of it. I'm just trying to say to differentiate between the disordered temptation and the giving into it.
Mhm.
The living a gay lifestyle, having gay sex, promoting a gay agenda, promoting gay marriage, all of those types of things are choices, and their sin. In my opinion, the disorder itself is not. Now, I'll tell you something that they bury, Mark. They absolutely bury this. And people, you don't have to trust me. You can Google this yourself. Google studies that have been done with homosexuality and indefinite pregnancy. Okay, what you're going to find, depending on the study, but they vary these studies, is that the rate tends to come back around 12 to 16% of the time when somebody's homosexual and they have an identical twin, that their twin also identifies as homosexual. Now, 12 to 16% is much higher than the general population, but it is much lower than the 100% that it would be if this was 100% genetic, since genetics are identical. And in fact, even if it was simply a majority genetics, you would expect the number to be somewhere in between 50 and 100%. And when you consider that these babies, even not only were genetically the same, but that they lived in the same
Well,
womb,
there you go.
and that many times were raised in the same families,
Sure.
okay, you begin to realize how much your experiences and your choices and your sins change you, okay? I fully think that a person can create a disorder with their sin. When you see something that you're not supposed to see, and you have a shocked reaction to it, and you turn it off, like you clicked on something on your computer, you went to a pornographic website or something like that, and you turn it off and you don't look at it again, it does not have a chance to poison you. If you choose to go and engage with something over and over again, it can poison you over the course of time. So yes, I think there probably even can be some choice that can lead in the development of the disorder. Just like if I choose to smoke cigarettes, it's going to increase the chance of me developing lung cancer. If I choose to sit and think about the most negative aspects of my life for
Hmm.
3 hours a day,
Hmm.
and I make a decision, I'm going to focus on like what's the worst part of my life for 3 hours a day, not the solution, but only the problem. And I'm not going to pray about it. I'm going to look at it. I will probably give myself an anxiety disorder, Mark.
Well, as Zig
Okay.
Ziglar would say, never build a case against yourself, and it has often been said, all the water in the ocean never sank any ship. until
Mhm.
it got inside.
So I want to make it clear that, look, I pray for people who suffer with sexual disorders, and I pray that that they get better. But the first point I wanted to make is that spiritually, I believe that we as Christians have no place celebrating Gay Pride Month. And I don't believe that's a way to go about converting them to Christianity. I always believe in being compassionate. I always believe in being polite, but I believe in telling people the truth.
Well, there's
And
a very real distinction. Let's suppose that someone comes to a church and admits that they are an adulterer, and they
right,
are, but they're not asking us to celebrate that. Okay,
Mark,
I mean,
right. In fact, they're confessing a sin that they want prayer and they
right? They're
want help
trying
to
to
change.
right. They're trying to find support to repent, to turn away from that which they're engaged in. Now, that is a very
Mhm.
different scenario than welcoming our LGBT friends. Because that's celebrating the lifestyle that God clearly, or celebrating a choice that God clearly enumerates as a sin. So, we welcome fornicators, we welcome alcoholics, we welcome homosexuals, but in the sense that we are trying to be supportive in excising that sin from their life. And that's the support we offer. We don't celebrate, oh, yeah, you're an adulterer. Great, man. I think that's just wonderful. Well, that isn't what
No,
God
no,
says.
exactly. Exactly. Mark, when the woman caught in adultery was brought to Christ,
Ooh.
that's such a wonderful story. There's so
Mm
many
hmm. Mm
angles
hmm.
we can go down on it,
Yeah,
including where was the
go.
worst
Yeah.
man?
This is
Because
this
it
is
says she
good.
was caught in the very act.
Yeah, where's the
Okay.
man?
Yes, Christ said, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. And then he said, has no one condemned you? No one, sir. And he
Well,
forgives her sin. And then what does he tell her, Mark?
go and sin no more. But can I bring up something? There
Hmm.
was somebody in that crowd that was without sin.
Yes, there was. Yes, there was. You know, it's also interesting. That's the only time in scripture, and we don't know what he wrote or what he
Oh, yeah,
drew,
he scribbled
but
something in the sand, didn't he? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he did.
I wonder what he said.
and, you know, it's the only example we have of Jesus writing. And
Hmm.
you know, my mind always goes places, and I've always wondered, well, what did he scribble? Okay, and I even thought about, I wonder how many people would get the reference if I made a bumper sticker that said, "What would Jesus scribble?" and you know, I've wondered about that. But Mark, I know that when I talked to you a few minutes ago, you'd started doing some research because there was an issue last year. I know, and I don't know about this year, but I know last year the embassies and some military bases were flying the gay flag
I,
for Pride Month. I know that
I remember seeing a story last year that at a military
Trump has
base.
put out, and I
Mhm.
disagree with him for it. Trump has put out this gay pride tweet. You know, all of our wonderful LGBTQ friends, and you
Well,
know, Trump's not perfect.
Trump can have his own opinion. I don't have a
He can have
problem
his
with
own opinion.
Trump if Trump wants to reach out to the LGBT community, and that's him. Okay, the fact that he's president, of course,
But
amplifies
Mark,
that.
what's going on in these government buildings and military? I mean, has it ever been, as the U.S. government, ever recognized that there is such a thing as Gay Pride Month?
No, it has not, and I'm prepared to bring on screen something that hopefully will be helpful to everybody out there. Because just before the show, I did a little research. Folks, if you want to know, for my opinion on this issue is that the United States government, until in such time as the Congress has declared June to be LGBTQ month, then it's not. Now, if a group of people, as I said earlier, want to organically assert that they chose this month to celebrate whatever their cause is, that's not an infringement on my rights, but I am a taxpayer. Okay, so if you go to congress.gov, this is a site that I use a lot. It is a government website. It is authoritative. Now, one thing you need to do when you go there is up at the top, before you do a search, it defaults to current legislation in this legislative session. So I changed it to all legislation so that I could find any history on LGBTQ month. And here's what I found. In July of 2014, get this, a Democratic New York Congressman, Joseph Crowley, introduced a bill that is summarized as such, honoring the life of Jean Sobelson Manford for her fierce advocacy on behalf of the blah, 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 blah. During the month of June, reflect on the progress made, blah, blah, blah. That bill was introduced in 2014, and it got 35 co-sponsors. I won't drill down on who those were. You can go there yourself. That bill was introduced and sent to the Judiciary Committee, where it remains today. All right. Well, let's fast forward in July of 2015. A Representative Al Green, a Democrat from Texas, introduced a bill encouraging the celebration of the month of June as LGBTQ Pride Month. And it obtained 17 co-sponsors, and it was referred to the subcommittee on the Constitution and Civil Justice, where it remains. 2016, again, the bill was introduced. Well, that's odd. It had 17 co-sponsors. 17 in 2015. Reintroduced the next year by the same representative. It got 15 actually got fewer co-sponsors the next year. All right, well, here he comes back on 2017, reintroduces it. Got 37 co-sponsors. That was in 2017. Well, now a new player comes on the scene. Sherrod Brown, a Democrat from Ohio, basically reintroduces the same bill, and it got 32 co-sponsors. 2018, same. Now Al Green is back, Democrat from Texas. Now this one's odd. I'd like to study it, not now. 2018 in June, got 100 co-sponsors. Not bad. Not bad. Okay, gained a little. Now in June of 2018, roughly a year ago, a bill was introduced by Sherrod Brown, Democrat, Ohio. 47 co-sponsors. So now there are 435, right? Members of Congress.
Right.
So you're looking at less than 10% co-sponsorship. I'm willing to bet you all of that co-sponsorship. You go there yourself, folks. So the bottom line is all of these bills were introduced, sent to a subcommittee, and died there. That is what we know. These are the facts. So as far as the
that could change this month. The Democrats are in control of the House. The Democrats could very easily decide in the House to pass such a bill this month, and then see what the Republican Senate wanted to do with it. Figuring, because I think that their goal would be to give the Republicans a lose-lose situation. Upset your base by passing it, or allow us to tag you as haters of gay people. And so it wouldn't surprise me, but if the House did something this month. But the U.S. government, by legislation, has never declared a Gay Pride Month, an LGBTQ Pride Month, or any such thing.
Right. It has been continuously introduced, going back. The first introduction was in 2014, but as a LGBTQ month. That started in 2015, 16, 17, and 18. Don't be surprised if you don't see it again in 2019.
I want to make another point, Mark, about putting it on government buildings, and I don't want us to run too long, so I want to wrap this up pretty soon.
Yeah, we're at 25 minutes.
But it, when the Supreme Court said that you can burn the American flag, when it said you can burn the American flag, and that was an interesting decision, because it was a 5-4 decision, but it didn't break down along normal conservative and liberal lines. It was all split up. Okay, the conservatives and the liberals were all split up on that. Okay, actually on that vote. But basically, what they said is that burning flags has become political speech over years, that has become a well-known form of political speech because flags symbolize things,
Right.
and they represent things, and movements and nations and everything else get to be known by flags. Okay, well, the gay flag has come to stand for a lot more than same-sex attraction. It has come to stand for the promotion of gay marriage. It's become to stand for this whole attack on gender. There's a whole political agenda associated with the gay flag. So as far as I'm concerned, when government buildings put up this flag, they're endorsing an entire agenda that I disagree with.
Well, come to think of it, I don't care what flag it is. I don't think in front of our United States buildings any flag other than the flag of the United States should fly. That just
Right.
makes sense, Um, and I don't want to take much of a detour. Where do you stand on burning the American flag? If you were on the court, what would you vote?
I'd allow it. I would also support a constitutional amendment banning it, and I would also personally punch anybody in the mouth that I found doing it.
Yeah, I would actually allow it, provided that it is your flag. You can't,
Right.
you can't, burn someone else's property. It makes me
By the
sick,
way,
and
that's
I
what
want
you're
to.
supposed to do with an old flag. You're supposed to fold it, burn it, and bury the ashes.
Well, that's
And you're not supposed
ceremonial. Yeah, there's a protocol for
Right.
that, but obviously,
There's a
flag burning. So
Right.
as much as it
That-
upsets me and all that, if it's your flag and you want to burn it, I, at least I know where you stand. Okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
actually,
yeah,
when you think about
that's
it,
where I am on it.
yeah, when you think about
I,
it, not standing for the
I would
national
certainly
anthem.
not lift it to some sort of protected right where you were allowed to go destroy public property or destroy someone else's property
Right.
or create a fire hazard or anything else.
Right.
But yes, you have a right to destroy your own property, and we have free speech. I would find that to be particularly offensive free speech.
Yeah.
And
But offensive free speech is protected. And really, it's only a matter of degree between not standing during the national anthem and burning a flag. It's just a matter of degree. It's
a matter of degrees.
Yeah. All right.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
That's all I have to say about that. It's 28 minutes.
All right. And so yeah, it's I guess, Mark, and I'm guessing that based on the information you've given me here, that you would agree with me that this flag shouldn't be being flown in front of government buildings. It shouldn't be flown at embassies. It shouldn't be flown in military bases.
Right. Now, by the way, I applaud President Trump for his effort to decriminalize homosexuality worldwide. Now we can only say things and suggest, but I don't think, I think it's positive, and I think it says something about who we are as Americans, that if you choose a lifestyle like that, we're not going to throw you off the top of a building and kill you. Well, God, it should not be a crime. Now, Roger, you said that there's a political agenda, and a point that is seldom brought up is I wonder sometimes the whole thing of getting the government to recognize a homosexual marriage might have to do with legal entitlements and legal status. Okay, marriage enjoys a special legal status in real estate. It's called tenancy by the entireties.
Right.
You own it jointly and severally at the same time. When you talk about Social Security benefits, when you talk about visitation privileges in a hospital or an operating room, next of kin notification, things like that. So there's the
Civil
issue is
union
not
laws
as
that some people supported 20 and 30 years ago were meant to address just that without redefining marriage or without creating, because unfortunately, one of the rights that was created is the right now of married couples to adopt children. Gay married couples. So it gets off into indoctrination of the youth. All legitimate concerns of joint ownership of property, who you could leave your property to, who could visit you in the hospital, that could have all been handled without an attack on marriage through civil laws.
Well, and
And in
in my
fact,
opinion,
people wouldn't necessarily even have to have any sexual connection to decide to become basically a little two-person corporation.
well, that's right. You have a lot of heterosexual couples cohabiting. That
Right.
no special provision was made for them. Um, I I believe personally that the role of the state with regard to marriage, and when I say state, I mean the government, whether it be federal or state, is to publicly record the existence of the marriage, because God defined marriage, and
Right.
there is no authority. The government, no person has any authority to redefine it.
Mark, are you about to bring up the great state of Alabama?
We have brought it up before. Well, Alabama played an interesting card. They have stopped issuing marriage licenses. Well, I don't think you should need. I don't need the government's permission to get married. So I'm opposed to marriage licenses. I do support that governments do need to make public record of the marriage. That's it. So Alabama just passed a law that they're no longer going to issue marriage licenses. And the notion of paying the government for a license, no. So, but of course, the tack here is that they were implicitly legitimating same-sex marriages by issuing a license, so they just chose to quit issuing licenses. That's the spin.
There you go, which was quite a sane response. The state of Alabama's been doing some great things. Mark, we're going to end this, but I don't want to get too far off topic, and I want to end it quickly. But just two quick things. I think we are going to look next week into what's going on with YouTube. I have to research it. I want to make sure that I have the facts and that it's not just rumor. But it really looks like YouTube wants to decide not only, do you have to violate our policy? We're just going to decide whether or not we like what you say.
It has got yes, and I encourage you not to wait until Friday, and I will send you some resources. I was just sent a tweet. Twitter has redefined not redefined, but they've made a public declaration of some changes to their rules. And we're running over next week, folks. This is the place to hear not only what's going on, but we'll have some authoritative stuff. So I hope that we can get some people to come visit with us next week, because it is a hostile landscape out there, and there is plenty of evidence to that effect. And the rise of the recent social media platform Parler has taken meteoric growth. I think we're seeing a change. I think we're seeing a shift in the paradigm. It's a little early to say. But that'll be a great topic, I think, for next week, Refugee. And I look forward to seeing you when that happens. And we'll just we'll leave it at that for now. I'm trying to find where the heck I'm at. Hey, we'll see you next week. Thanks for all your help, and can't wait to hear what we're going to say next week.
All right.
All right, folks. That was Refugee from the Bayou country of Louisiana. So I'll switch back to the PJNet Star Trek studio right here, and it's time to turn things back over. We tried to keep it in bounds this week. We went a little bit over, but we're getting better. We're trying. We're conscious of the fact of your time. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving us your time. Thank you for sharing your time with us. And I will now turn things over to Hazards for Steve, who has the great tunes and the smooth jazz. Get your favorite beverage, sit back and relax, have a good time right here on PJNet Live.